had a Zoom meeting with Reverend Barber and Reverend Liz after the first one was over. And Reverend Barber was kind of somber, really. He said, we can call this event a success, but we won't know if it's significant, if it really matters, until we see whether or not we're going to actually carry on the work to insist that our demands be implemented by continuing to add more and more voices until they, as Dr. King would say, they have to pay attention even when they don't want to. So what Vicki was referring to is that over 200 organizations in the Saturday morning event were cross-posting our Facebook Live, the Poor People's Campaign's Facebook Live. They were cross-posting, meaning they had handed over their Facebook page to the campaign so that it was live streamed from their page as though they were directly live streaming it, so that people who wouldn't have gone directly to the Poor People's Campaign Facebook, but were on their favorite Facebook page from their favorite organization were watching it with us. And I was monitoring the comment and a half followers. So I was just putting into the chat, into the comment section of that Facebook page, messages about here's where you can sign up for the campaign, text moral to 90975. Here's where you can go to send our demands to your Congress people, over and over. I wasn't responding to negative comments, and there were some, because that page attracts a lot of non-political people who didn't get it. But there were other people watching who were really appreciating it, and so they were themselves responding to the negative people. So I didn't really have to, and that wasn't our job anyway. So yeah, that was fun. It was exhausting to pay that close attention, and I watched it again in the evening just because with half my attention on the comments, I couldn't actually fully attend to the speakers. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping to watch the whole thing again.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do the mute everybody so I can unmute Randy. Randy, unmute yourself, okay?
Okay. All right, good morning. The lyrics are over in the chat, and ain't gonna let nobody turn us around, or turn us around, turn us around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn us around. We're gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching on to justice land. Ain't gonna let no fear turn us around, or turn us around. Turn us around, ain't gonna let no fear turn us around. We're gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching on to justice land. Ain't gonna let no threats turn us around, yeah, turn us around, whoa, turn us around. Ain't gonna let no threats turn us around. We're gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching on to freedom land. Ain't gonna let nobody turn us around, turn us around, turn us around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn us around. We're gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching on to justice land.
Forward together, not one step back. Forward together, not one step back. Forward together, not one step back.
Do we want to try that again with everybody's volume on?
Yes.
I'm ready.
You know what, though? I don't think I can unmute everyone.
We can unmute ourselves.
Yes, unmute yourself. Okay, go for it, Scarlett.
Forward together, not
One step back.
forward together.
Not one step back.
Forward Forward together.
Not one step back.
Back.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Welcome to Tuesdays with Tillis, week number 178. Can you raise your hand if you're here for the very first time? Suzanne, welcome. Anybody else here for the very first time?
Mark Swallow.
Michael Eisenberg.
Just went like this.
Joanne London.
Welcome, Joanne. Welcome. Welcome.
Joanne, put your email in the chat and you'll get the chat transcript later, which will have a lot of great stuff in it.
Okay, so beautiful to see everyone. We are a community of nonviolent resistance, and we gather every week to support each other, to learn, and to figure out how to take the most strategic action to keep the movement that is sweeping our country, the movement of justice, the anti-racist movement, the economic justice movement, to keep that going. So we're trying to figure out what are the most strategic things we can do to help that happen. And one of the most strategic things we can do is listen to the grannies sing. The Raging Grannies are some of my favorite people in the world. They all inspire all of us, I think, and they've been with us from the very beginning. And they sing these wonderful original songs that reminds me of the kind of resistance they've been doing all their lives. So I'm gonna maybe try to mute everybody again and ask the grannies to unmute yourselves. Welcome.
So I'm going to introduce our song today. It has a little bit of a story with it that I think you'll want to hear. This song I wrote originally back in 2013. My husband and I had recently moved to North Carolina. We were watching the news and we heard that 17 people had gone down to the North Carolina legislature and been arrested merely for trying to meet with their legislators about voter suppression. And they were arrested, put in handcuffs, taken to detention. My husband and I looked at each other. We said, that ain't right. So the next week we went down when we heard that they were going to come back the next Monday and try again. So we went down and actually on the Friday before that second Monday, there was a press conference to explain to the media why we were needing to do this and to exert our and exercise our rights. And I went down with this little song and I said to this man I had never seen before, turned out to be Reverend Barber, if it would be okay if we could sing our song. And we did. We went back the following Monday. My husband and I were among the 30 that were arrested at that second event, which turned out to be called Moral Mondays. We didn't know at that point it was going to be an extended campaign. It wasn't designed that way, but Reverend Barber said later, if we hadn't come down, there wouldn't have been a Moral Monday campaign. But as you all know, the momentum grew, and over that summer, more than 1,000 people were arrested for exercising their First Amendment rights. So this is the song that we sang at that press conference before the second Moral Monday to explain why we were doing what we were doing. And it went like this. We're raging at our legislators. We think that they're out of their minds for cutting the funds for our schoolrooms and leaving our children behind. Forward together, not one step back. We won't be dragged back to the bad old days when schools had no money, and that's not funny, and that's why we're raging today.
They've made cuts to our unemployment and refused funding for Medicaid. With no jobs for loan-burdened students, it's no wonder that we feel betrayed. Forward together, not one step back. We won't be dragged back to the bad old days with no safety nets. That's as bad as it gets, and that's why we're raging today.
They've lifted the ban now on fracking, and they'll poison our land and our wells. So some out-of-state gas corporation can get rich while the poor live in hell. Forward together, not one step back. We won't be dragged back to the bad old days. We're all connected and must be protected. And that's why we're raging today.
They say they believe in democracy, but they're making it harder to vote and detaining the immigrant workers. They think freedom is some kind of joke. Forward together, not one step back. We won't be dragged back to the bad old days. We've fought far too long for a place to belong, and that's why we're raging today.
Arrest us and throw us in prison, if that's what it takes to be heard. But you can't keep us silent forever. The people will have the last word. Forward together, not one step back. We won't be dragged back to the bad old days. We will remember when we vote next November. The people are rising today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Grannies, thank you. During this time when we haven't been able to be on the street, Zoom calls have proliferated. The Comfort Committee, which we just talked about a few minutes ago, which is so wonderful. We have a food Zoom, we have a migrant and immigrant Zoom, we have everybody doing so many different things and trying to communicate about it. And we have an environmental committee. And Keith has an announcement about the environmental committee.
Thank you, Karen. As Karen said, I'm representing the climate crisis action team of Tuesdays with Tillis. And one of the efforts that we've started is developing a relationship with legislators from the North Carolina General Assembly. We started this several months back, and we have 7 of Tuesdays with Tillis folks who have signed up to become a pen pal with their favorite legislator. And we have 24 legislators that are being specifically targeted. We're, of course, primarily concerned with the climate crisis issues, but we don't care what you write to them about. We've written to legislators thanking them for their votes and also expressing what we think their position and policy ought to be. So you're welcome to join us. We're inviting more people. And we particularly wanted to bring attention to Senate District number 14 with Senator Blue, who votes pretty much according to our views with regard to the climate, but he's also quite close to Duke Energy. And so we're asking if any of you all are from Senate District number 14, if you would take on that responsibility. And if you'd like more information about this, you can email Sandy Ritchie, who has the list of legislators that do have Tuesdays with Tillis pen pals. but we're always you're always welcome to join that list. The more, the better. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I put Sandy's email in the chat. So something else that I put in the chat is the link to a survey. And I'm trying something new. And what it is I've been asking people in Tuesdays with Tillis some questions about the direction you want us to take. And so I kind of tried it out on a few people, and I want to open it up to everyone who's here today. So I put the link in the chat box. And I just wanted to kind of report to you what people have said so far. And I kind of had another plan for today that didn't work. So I want to do a different plan. And the plan is around what the people so far among you have said about what's important to focus on. And so 3 things came out way on top so far. The first one, of course, is the November election. Defeating Tillis, defeating Trump, and getting rid of McConnell. Those 3 things, flipping the Senate. And then, and voter suppression, all those things are under that topic. The second thing is supporting the demands of the Poor People's Campaign. I think most of us probably watched over the weekend this incredible thing. The link to that is in the chat to watch it again or watch it for the first time. But overwhelmingly, we want to support these demands. And there's also a link to them in the chat. That's the second thing. And then the third thing, and this is really in no particular order, is how can we support these protesters who have been on the street every single night calling for racial justice, calling for a radical, not moderate, not small, radical change in policing. So those are the 3 things. And so we have a couple of possibilities today. And I want to hear the possibilities. We can break out. I figured out how to do this. We can break out into breakout rooms to discuss these 3 things, or we can just give each one about 15 minutes. How would you like to do that? You can unmute yourself or put the answer in the chat.
I'm into the 15 minutes. I'm into everybody being on the same.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if we don't hear everybody on all these issues, we're gonna miss something.
Great.
This is Mary Grace. I would, I've done the breakout rooms with Raise Up for 15, and it's really wonderful. Each breakout room is facilitated by somebody, and they can then give a synopsis when we get back together. So it's a little more succinct and a lot less time. So I would go for the breakout rooms, and maybe if people don't feel comfortable with that after we've tried it once, we could come back to the 15-minute thing, but that takes a lot more time.
I think it's great to have breakout rooms as working groups, but honestly, we are not there yet. And just because you can have a breakout room, you shouldn't always just break up as much as you can, which is what I think some people do. So I say my vote is for all of us to discuss this collectively here.
Okay. All right. So just so that we don't spend all our time talking about that, we will all discuss together these 3 things. Okay. And we'll give each one about 15 minutes. So let's start then with how to support the protesters. I know, Elena, you've been out there. One thing that I was doing is I was trying to actually get somebody to speak among the Black leadership that have been in these different communities leading people on the streets. Is I have discovered that the demands are different from place to place. So we all want to support the protesters, and what we might do is concentrate on Durham if we live in Durham, Raleigh if we live in Durham, in Raleigh. You know what I mean? We have to support our local people. But let's open this up now, how we can do that, just as individuals and maybe as a group. Go ahead, Sandy. I do want to try to privilege people of color if anybody wants to speak first before we all jump in. And also, honestly, people who've been out on the street, I want to kind of privilege them too. So just take a couple deep breaths. If you feel called to speak, go ahead, no matter who you are.
I feel called because I have an opportunity. I want to share it with you.
Okay.
I have an experience from my hometown, Washington, D.C., back in the 70s, where an activist, a Black activist, invited a church in D.C. in the inner city to partner with my church. And it ended up a wonderful partnership and relational friendships that grew from it. That seemed a way to go. And where I sit, I have an opportunity to put that in the ear of somebody, but more important, that one of the Black leadership identify a church first that might be interested in such a partnering. In DC, what happened was the two churches came together on a common project downtown, like clean up the neighborhood or whatever, and then have a meal afterwards together. And that's how it started.
Okay. Thank you. Elena, you've been out there. Briefly, be brief.
It is the most energizing, unbelievable sight and space to be in at this point in history. These kids are passionate and they call each other. I mean, they call each other out. And from day one, for example, NC Born, the two kids that started NC Born were on the video Saturday. And I mean, they've been here, they've slept here, they've eaten here. So last week, I did not spend a whole lot of time downtown. I was downtown, but not every night like I had been. I've been cooking for them. They don't eat. They are so engaged in this that they're surviving on energy drinks and potato chips. Ugh. So they're vegetarians. I brought them quinoa. Karen, you know that I was cooking for them one day. I was on the phone with you.
Yeah.
And even like at Costco, they have the pouches, the lentils, and just so something quick that they can grab, warm up, and have sustenance. That's what I've been doing. The other thing is somebody put bail, and that's for real. So I can reach out to them right now and say what would be, they love having the old folks down there. And I told Karen and Miranda this last week, like for some reason, it's just like, this is pretty freaking intense, this virus. And I don't know why it hit me last week.
Yes.
Because when I thought about that I had just one day been exposed to 2,000 people, yes, I have a mask on, but it was hot. So that mask was like hanging a good part of the day.
Yes.
So I've been trying to find other ways, even if you go down there in a car and you have waters, just send them messages. NC Born is the group I have been working with. There's lots of grassroots groups right now. I am trying to get their demands. They have written out, I have them somewhere, but I couldn't find them. So I will get those to you, Karen. And I am going to invite Tari and Braden to speak to us.
Good.
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 If that's okay with everyone.
Good. That would be good.
Hey,
good.
Elena.
Yeah.
This is Galia. So I understand, are they meeting somewhere every night? Like, can you share that? Because I don't see them in my normal feed.
No. So they are on Insta. They're on Instagram, NC Born. And it's not always on their page. It's on their story where there's specifics. And then you could also direct message them. For example, somebody called me yesterday, well, where's the celebration? And I was like, what are you talking about? And it was another group. And I am not one to be, yes, we should recognize that monuments are coming down, but please, people, this is the same stuff that's been done for too many years to keep everybody like, oh, look, we're doing stuff. No, this is for the cameras, this is not meaningful. I mean, it's meaningful, don't get me wrong, but this is not changing people's lives. This is not changing the systems. This is not going to make people safer because we've taken down some granite. So that was not my kid. So I don't know who ran that one. But my kids were downtown last night and ABC was following them. And I happened to get on Facebook and I was shocked at the racist, I shouldn't be, right? I'm a white woman. Of course, I don't live in that world. But the racist comments that were going on, and I'm not that fast. So I'm like trying to keep up with like, this has been history. Where have you been? You know? But yeah, they're beautiful children with, and we call them the babies because they're just so sweet and so open to learning and so wanting to do the right thing. It's very energizing.
So these two young people were on the Poor People's Campaign video, a blonde boy, white boy, and a young African-American woman.
Yep.
So I think that the boy has been homeless, right? Elena, is he still homeless?
Yeah, he's living at Tari's. Yes,
Okay.
he's yeah, and he's just an amazing kid. He has been doing work for a while in New Bern surrounding human trafficking. And he's been very, very deep in that work down there, very deep in that work. And I don't think I'm telling anything out of school. The night, the 31st, when all the riot gear came out and it turned to hell downtown, Clinton pulling, I'm going to leave that outside. Clinton and Erica were downtown trying to de-escalate and telling these kids, you know, you need to organize. And these two, actually at that point, there were 3 kids, said, what do you mean? And that's how it was born. I'm serious. That's how it was born. What do you mean we need to organize? And they took them under their wing. So we call Clinton and Erica the kids, the kids.
Yeah.
That's why Tari and Braden are the babies, because you know what it's like. We're the old folks. Let's just start there.
And Clinton, just for anyone who doesn't know, Clinton and Erica are both on Reverend Barber's staff.
Yes. And and they've had meetings here, and it is just to see the babies with all of this energy. Look at them, they're frenetic. They have so much energy. And to see Clinton and Erica mentoring them, it's just so beautiful.
It really is. Yeah.
You know, it's I am in the supporting role. I say nothing. I'm in the background, but I can see the future, and it's beautiful. They're not gonna settle. They're not gonna settle. It's great.
So everyone, are you on board with, let's invite them to come to our Zoom next week and ask them, how can we support you? Does that make a lot of sense? How can we support you? Thank you so much, Elena. So more on the front lines, we have a few more minutes on this subject, how to support the protesters and their demands. Toby?
Hi. I think one thing that we can do in Durham is there's a group that's been organized for several years called Durham Beyond Policing.
Yes.
That's been doing very intentional, thoughtful work around where does the money in our city go and how does it support the police department or not. Recently, a few years ago, when the whole idea of a new police department building came up, they got very involved. And last year, and that may have been part of the beginning with BYP 100. And last year they did the police chief came to the city and wanted an increase in, I think it was 70 something officers over a 3-year period. And Durham Beyond Policing did this amazing report that involved many young people. I would say the group is overwhelmingly African-American young people, some really young, some not so young, some maybe more in their 30s, and other activists engaged, who people probably know. Manju Rajendran, Matt Segrist are involved, and they put together this really phenomenal book that looked at the report, but it was like enough, it's almost 100 pages or more, that also looks at what are alternatives to policing. And one of the things they called for was the starting of a safety and wellness task force that would really look at where should money go? Should it go to the police, or should it go to alternatives to policing? And like, do we need to send police out if it's a mental health call, or a call around an overdose or drug stuff? What do we need to do? And so, last year, the city council voted to not give the raise. The mayor had proposed an alternative, but it didn't get voted. It didn't get approved. Mid-year, they did approve part of it, but it just came up for a city council vote a week ago, yesterday, when the city was voting on the budget. And there was a Zoom public hearing, which was that I watched and I actually spoke at, but it was really frustrating. One, just the whole Zoom thing, and between the mayor, who did a phenomenal job with people attacking him and other people, and people on the council arguing with each other. I can go on and describe it, but just to cut to the chase, I think that this group could get involved with Durham Beyond Policing. The decision was that Durham did vote for a 5% increase in the police budget for this year, which primarily is going to support. They did end up giving a few new cops in the middle of the year to the police department. So 5% isn't creating new positions. It's just supporting the cost of doing business and increases like that.
Okay.
So anyway, there's something that's going on now. There's a few things around reforming policing, or changing it, not reforming it, but really.
Right.
And I think we could be involved in that. I'll put the links in the chat.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Toby. Yeah, I put, so those of us who live in Durham need to support Durham Beyond Policing. We can send donations. We can pay attention to when they're meeting. They have regular protests on the street these days. And I'm going to move on from this subject now, but check out who is protesting in your community if you don't live in Durham or Raleigh, and how to support them. I want to move on to Reverend Barber and the Poor People's Campaign. I've put in the chat the platform, the Jubilee platform, and I just want to open it up, because how do we lean into making this happen? Not just dealing with one thing, but everything at once.
Yeah, so this is Mark. I think we need to get with Cal and Cunningham and find out where he stands in supporting the Poor People's budget and the goals of the Poor People's Campaign, and pressure him to take a position on this.
Mike, you want to report on that? Mike Eisenberg? I will. Mike and Amy and Jewel, can you mute some people? So Mike and Amy and Tara and I have been really involved in trying to get Cal to come. Our position is that we have been laser focused on Tillis for 3.5 years, and Cal can give us a half an hour of a town hall on a Tuesday by Zoom. He has not been very wanting to do that. And I believe it's because he knows we're going to vote for him. He knows we're going to work for him. But meanwhile, we're really missing opportunities to try to push him toward these things. I think Mark is exactly correct. He's a moderate. The Democratic Party in North Carolina picked him because he's a moderate. And he is now spending his time, according to his campaign staff, talking to moderates and people who they think might be on the line. And it's important to say that I think that the polls, even though he's very unpopular, he's one of the most unpopular senators, Tillis and Cal are pretty much tied right now. Yeah.
Karen?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Can we send an email to all the people that we've reached out to and tell them that we do not accept the fact that Cal Cunningham is going to take our vote for granted? And to think that just because he's running against Tom Tillis, that we are going to work for him. And we will use the power of our 1,300 people to try to bring change to the state of North Carolina. And we would like him to be on board. And being on board means he comes talk to us. So if we can put something in writing that is a little stronger than the way we've tried to focus on being nice people and asking them to come talk to us, I think it's time to maybe put a little pressure on.
I really agree with you about that, Mike. And, you know, you've done at least 2 or 3 emails. I've done also the same. And finally, I did get through to one of his campaign managers, Michael, by phone and had a pretty long conversation with him. I really think that not just one, but many of us should be emailing these people now that Amy and Mike have gotten us actual email addresses of these actual people. So we're not kind of reaching into the void. So I would like to ask everyone to please email these specific people, and we will put their emails in the chat box. How does that sound?
And I also think, Karen, I mean,
yes.
We could tell him that Tom Tillis has ignored us for 3+ years. We don't need him to ignore us either.
Well, right, exactly right. Thank you.
And
yeah.
you can also write a handwritten letter, which I wrote to Cal Cunningham. And I said, I'm not sending you any money until you reach out to the Tuesday with Tillis group, and then you might get a lot of money.
Oh, I love you, Jade. I love you. That's perfect.
Did you get a response, Jade?
It's a deal.
Did you get a response?
No.
How long ago did you write them?
Can I respond to the question about the Poor People's Campaign?
Yes.
So tackling Cal Cunningham as a potential congressional representative is important, but one of the principles of the Poor People's Campaign is that we build from the bottom up. Yeah. And so that's why we have state campaigns, because tackling the systemic racism and systemic poverty that's supported by the policies of our state legislature is where we're going to be most effective in making the changes we're demanding. So I'd like to see us, think about who are the people to target. Somebody mentioned Dan Blue for the environmental issue, but there are many others. So I think a lot of our energy needs to go to the state legislature rather than to Congress right now. The Senate is doing nothing. So.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah.
This is Liv. May I speak?
Yes.
Okay, I'm speaking to the Poor People's Campaign. In the issue of environmental destruction, it is imperative that we support the Environmental Justice and Equity Advisory Board to the DEQ, which is the Department of Environment Quality. So, Will Barber is on that board, Reverend Rodney Sadler, Jamie Cole is an attorney who's on that board. They're just, Dr. Jim Johnson is the chair. So I could provide you with email addresses for all the people on the board if you want to make comment about the essential nature of having a clean environment. Now, last night, for example, the DAQ, which is Department of Air Quality, had an online public comment regarding a new Blackwood pellet facility for Robinson County. There were at least 150 people on this call, and it turns out the pellet company had already started work without a permit. It's just crazy. So it is a grassroots effort, as Jan has pointed out, to organize around specific issues and support people in Robinson County. So you can go to like Friends of the Earth, you can support Frack Free North Carolina. There are many organizations already ongoing, Water Keepers. who have spoken out last night against the wood pellet. Thank you for time to speak.
And what's happening with the wood pellet? Can we still comment about that?
Yes, you have 2 days.
Please, can you put the link in for us to do that?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Lib. Thank you so much. You know, I don't know about you, but I get overwhelmed by all of these things. But each of us have a heart for something more than anything else. And if we can just lean into whatever that is, what I think Reverend Barbara has shown us is that everything is connected. So if you're spending every day of your life on the environment, you know, you're working for racial justice. If you're working every day of your life for racial justice, you're working for economic justice, and so on. So I want to say that, I don't know about you, but sometimes I get tossed around by the news cycle. Oh, good news, oh, bad news. But I want to really encourage myself and all of us to just keep focused on just moving forward every day on whatever our heart is giving us energy to do. And then we'll be working on everything. Does that make sense?
I want to just chime in if I can. Just
yes.
A hopeful note when you talk about the young people and the energy they have.
Thank you, Dale.
In the last month, the number of people signed on to the Poor People's Campaign in North Carolina almost doubled, from a little over 10,000 to almost 20,000.
Oh, that's great. That's so great. And how can we keep that going, Dale?
Jan is one of the people who keeps that going by responding to all the people who send email messages saying, how can I get involved?
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. Can we talk a little more about the election right now? Because it feels to me like Trump is pretty humiliated, and narcissists are really, I know this as a psychiatric nurse, narcissists are really dangerous when they get humiliated. And so what can we do about voter suppression, which is certainly going to be one thing he's going to lean into? What can we do about Barr, which makes him so much more dangerous? What's at the top of your...
So Karen, this is Mark. So I posted a link in the chat box. So I signed up to be an election poll worker again for Wake County. The notes went out this week just so that I could participate internally to try and make sure that everyone's vote has a chance to vote. So when I did that for February, there are a lot of people that came in. They came to the wrong place. They for all kinds of different reasons. And I at least made sure that they were able to submit a ballot. It was a conditional ballot, but at least they were able to submit that. Lots of times there were lots of people that came in that were Republican. They wanted to change parties to be Democrat. And of course, they had to do that ahead of time then on election day, but at least got them to do a provisional ballot. So, there's things that we can do within the system. That's one of the things that I'm doing.
Thank you. Signing up to be a poll worker, a brave thing to do and absolutely essential. Something Democracy NC was really encouraging as many of us as possible to do for the last election. And I'm really thinking about doing it again. Yeah, Scarlett.
Suzanne Box wants to speak.
Scarlett's next.
And then Suzanne.
I'm a volunteer with You Can Vote, and we work outside the polling areas to answer questions, to direct people to the correct polling site. I worked at UNC Central during the primaries, and so many of these people came to us because they assumed that was their polling place, and it wasn't. And we were there outside with a big sign saying, if you have any questions, any problems, see us. And we were able to to help quite a few people. We even volunteered if they did not know how to get to their polling area. We would volunteer to drive them or call them a cab. So You Can Vote is another good organization if you do not work within the polling, the voting area.
Great. Yeah. And you can start working with them right now before and during the You Can Vote and also Democracy NC. Susan Jones?
Yes. So I live in the neighborhood with Scarlett and Darlene and Bessie, and we have a group of people. I just want to share this, that we have 600 new homes, people who've, I think that's the number around there, people who've moved from all over the country. And so we've been meeting throughout the lockdown through Zoom. And there's kind of a core group of us, and we're preparing to help our neighbors, especially people who voted in other states before and maybe haven't voted here, to direct them to the.
Oh, whoops! Whoa! Sorry. Wait! Sorry, Susan, I muted you by mistake. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
So I don't know what you heard, but we are working as a core group of people in our community to direct people. We're preparing a letter, and Darlene figured out that you can find out who's registered to vote and who isn't, and what party by street and whatever. So we're going to reach out to the entire community in a nonpartisan way to make sure people know that they're registered, first of all. And if they're not, we're going to try to help them with that process. So we're really focusing on our people who really have come here from all over the country.
Your community. That's great. And a lot of us are working in our precinct. I know Cliff's doing that. Randa and I are doing that. Suzanne?
I do a lot of work with voter services for the League of Women Voters. And right now, you can register to vote online because of COVID. That's really new for us. But please, each person request an absentee ballot. You don't have to have any excuse. They will send your ballot in September and you can vote. Everyone's very concerned about going to the polling place, and so many older poll workers are not going to be wanting to do that. But we've seen a huge decrease in people registering to vote because they can't congregate and there's no festivals and we can't bring the forms to them. So right now you can register to vote online. That's new because of COVID, just enacted last week. So tell everyone in your communities that they just go online to their county Board of Elections and you can register right then and there.
Okay. Thank you. Susan? Steinberg?
Yes. So as far as the election and the focus on Tillis, is there a way to leverage our connection with Indivisible? Because, that's Tillis is a big focus of their work and their payback project. And there are all these intersecting organizational efforts, but Indivisible is one that our group is connected to as well. So that's just a thought. And
any ideas about that, Susan?
Well, I think they're doing good work on that. So if we can keep turning to their resources to bring to this group, and for this group to go to their website and see how members of our group can support Indivisible's efforts, because they're working on McConnell as well.
That's right. So if you're not on Indivisible's mailing list, do that. Get on their mailing list.
Yeah.
Mike asked a good question, which is, do we have any idea whether North Carolina will close polling places like we've seen in other states? Yeah, Suzanne, briefly. Yeah.
They are meeting this Thursday, and you can comment on where you would like your polling place to be. This is for Wake County. I'll try to find the link and send it. But they are expecting them to be fewer, especially for early voting. A lot of the schools and churches that were polling places don't want to have them because of COVID.
Okay, thank you.
They're redoing.
Thank you. And as you know, the closing of polling places is happening in disproportionately African American communities, so something to watch for.
Karen, I was on a webinar with Democracy NC last week, and they're calling everybody to pay attention to where polling locations are being decided right now, because every county's Board of Elections is making decisions and open for public comment. I know it's open right now in Durham. So that's a place right now where we can put pressure to make sure that there are polling places for early voting and for election day in low-income areas, schools and colleges, places which often get shut out, to make sure that they're included. So we do have a voice right now. The plans are being made right now and will be submitted to the State Board of Elections. And the rule in North Carolina is that if the County Board of Elections doesn't have a unanimous decision about their voting plan, then it goes to the state to make a decision at the state board level. So we have two places in which we can influence.
That's really great. So we represent a whole bunch of different counties. And so if each of us could go to our different county to figure out how we can have input into where the polling stations are. Thank you, Jan. That's beautiful.
There's a lot of really good information about how to do that on the Democracy NC website, suggestions about things to ask for that are important to think about. So that's a really good place to check it out.
Democracy NC is really excellent. We need to all be on their mailing list too. Maggie?
Yes, I just wanted to, I think it was somebody, Suzanne maybe, who mentioned about signing up for voting by mail and or getting an absentee ballot. And everybody can do that right now online. And those ballots are supposed to be sent out in September. And so that helps take away the problem of closing polling places. I'm going to be working again, I always do, at Carol Woods polling place, and we won't be closed because we have 95% of people who live at Carol Woods who vote, so they won't take ours away, I'm sure. But the main thing is that we can make this really important that everybody sign up for an absentee ballot.
And send it in early. That's really important. Send it in early. Yeah, Mr. Waters, go right ahead.
Yeah, my wife and I we're connected with WUNC, as I'm sure many of you are. And a couple of weeks ago, they had Ken Rudin, the political junkie, on. Some of you may probably know him. Anyway, they had a call in. So we called in, me specifically, and I said, well, what can we do about the problem that they were having at Georgia, I think it was, where you send in for a request for a ballot, the ballot never comes. And I asked them, well, what can we do about that? Well, unfortunately, they didn't have any real answer to that. So one thing is request it now, like Maggie said, but if you don't get it, unfortunately, you got to be prepared to go stand in line.
Actually, you don't, because on the Board of Election for the county, when you check your registration, they will tell you if you requested one, when they received it and when it was sent out on your Wake County. If you live in Wake County, it's on there. And I just posted vote411.org. That has information about the candidates that they put in themselves, and it also shows your registration and if your absentee ballot has been sent. Those ballots will not change after September unless someone passes away, and we've had that happen. They'll stay on the ballot. But you can go ahead and vote, and that is critical. They have changed it so you only need one witness to your signature, which is great if you're two in the house.
Yeah.
It used to be 2 signatures, which is a real problem. You can still get it notarized if you're just one. But look at Vote 411 or any of the other voter things. But your election website, your county election website, is very good. And you can actually request it, everything on there now.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Mark Swallow. I think Cliff and I worked on, this was about a month ago, a write-up on absentee ballot, and I think it got put on the website, Karen. I'm not sure where, but I think on on our website. There's a PDF document included in that is the form.
Okay, good. Jeanette?
I just wanted to say a word about Ricky Hurtado. Flip-NC and the Democratic Party have identified 6 House seats that can be flipped. He's a young Hispanic man who graduated from UNC. He was a Morehead Scholar, lives in Alamance County, has a master's degree in public policy from Princeton, and is running for the state house. And the district that he was in, he is in, got redistricted and it got added some more Democratic voters. So the chances are really good he can win. I think he would be the only Hispanic person in the House if he did. So Ricky Hurtado in Alamance County.
Thank you. He's been a speaker for us. I don't know if you remember him. He's wonderful. Flip-NC is a great way to work for his election. We really need him in Alamance County. Also through the Food Zoom, we have met Lowell Simon, some of us, who's a wonderful man who's been working with the NAACP in Moore County to feed hundreds of people several times a week. And he's also running for the General Assembly. And I'm hoping to support him as well.
Karen?
Yes.
I just want to get back to the Tillis angle one more time and talking about, going to indivisible, other indivisibles to really. So that I am going to do that. And if anybody wants to join me, I can just keep you informed because Michael and I did not write all these songs about one-term Tom to have it not happen. So I'm pretty committed to getting Tillis out. So I just am saying that's my focus among others. But if anybody wants to keep in touch with me about what's happening, I'll let them know.
That's so great. That's so great. I can feel that, I can feel the forward together, not one step back resolve in all of us today, and it's great. We need to have the closing song, but I want to also remind everyone that there is a caravan around the federal building and at the post office at 1:30, and it is to save the United States Post Office. And everyone who got a reminder of the Zoom call should have gotten information about that. I know some of the grannies left because they're going to be singing at this protest.
Which post office?
The one across the street from the federal building at New Bern Avenue.
Oh, New Bern. Okay.
And they're having a caravan from the airport, but some people are going to be joining them at the federal building at 1:30. Yes.
Can I say one thing? There's a lot of information about that in the Zoom reminder today. If you want information, that's one quick way to do it. And also, I want to thank Classis and Jesse for sharing it. I wanted to alert everybody to look in your email for an email from Classis and Jesse following up on our request to learn more about their letter to their white friends and a lot of the wonderful responses they got. So thank you. Thank you.
Okay, let's do the closing song and the closing chant. Mike?
Everybody. I read a Bill Kristol quote this morning, and again, looking at the conservative perspective towards the elections, it's it's something we got to think about, and it kind of reinforces what Randa said about the songs that we sing, and the words we say depend on legitimacy of elections. Anyway, just wanted to read the quote. You look at the polls and think he can't win, but Trump's path to victory doesn't depend on persuading Americans. It depends on voter suppression, mass disinformation, foreign interference, and unabashed use of executive branch power to shape events and perceptions this fall. I might just hope it doesn't come down to that. But anyway, here's an aspiration for voting. You don't like who's in there, vote 'em out. What election day is all about. The superpower we've got, you know, is called the ballot box. And if you don't like who's in there, vote 'em out. Come on, everybody. Vote 'em out. Yeah, vote 'em out. When they're gone, sing and dance and shout. We'll bring some great ones in and find us hope again. And if you don't like who's in there, vote 'em out. 2020 never mattered quite like this. The Senate is a swamp that serves the rich. Let's end the grafting line, get the White House sanitized. That nasty virus must be rooted out. When they're gone, sing and dance and shout. We'll bring some good ones in and find us hope again. And if you don't like who's in there, vote 'em out. Well, we're in the streets and we are holding strong. Monuments are crashing, been way too long. Let's end deceit and fraud and restore the rule of law. We'll bring the truth and vote 'em out. Yeah, out. I wanna hold your hand and twist and shout. Stuff, bring some good ones in and find us hope again. If you don't like who's in there, vote 'em out. I'll stand in line for hours to vote 'em out. Stand all night long if I have to.
Amen.
Forward together, not one step back. Forward together,
Not one step back.
Forward together,
Not one step
back.
Y'all are awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, for always being our North Star.
Yes.
Karen, can't hear you.
Thank you all so much. You guys are the North Star. I'm like navigating the ship, but you're the stars. It's amazing. So if you haven't filled out the survey, do that, and we'll keep moving along. And let's just take one step forward every day, each of us. But take care of yourself.
Right. And Susan is with us now?
Susan's here. Susan, are you
Yes.
still? Okay.
I'd be
Final
glad
word,
to,
my dear.
I'd be glad to do something if we still have time.
Go ahead.
Wow. We're holding strong. I just feel the energy coming through our time together. So thank you. And I hope everybody can take a moment just to let the hope sink in and the strength of this time that we've shared. The energy of the young people, the organizations who are working to keep democracy strong, the people who are working to feed the children and make our communities safe without the kind of policing we've had. There's so much hope. But I would also want us to remember that today, as we meet in just at 1:00, Rayshard Brooks will be memorialized and buried. And we need to say his name.
Rayshard Brooks.
Rayshard Brooks.
Rayshard
We need to grieve with his family.
And end parole. Change it.
And feel the pain. He's being buried in Martin Luther King's church, down in Atlanta. And King was the one who said, so of course, so many amazing things that we still draw on for strength today, but he said, I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. And you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. And we might substitute the word breathe. I can never breathe until you can breathe. And you can never breathe until I can breathe. And I thought of that reading about on Sunday morning, when that Confederate monument was taken down in Raleigh after 125 years. And there were two musicians who showed up in their dresses to play. One of them said, with that statue standing there, I could not exhale in Raleigh. I could not exhale. So I'm here to serenade the statue goodbye. And she said, and I'm here to breathe hope, to breathe hope into the air. So as we close our time together, let's breathe hope. Keep breathing hope. Breathing our solidarity in grief and breathing justice. Breathe hope. Thank you. You already do.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Amen. Amen.